Hey everybody, we're going to forge a leaf finial in a 1/4 thick by 1 inch wide piece of flat bar today. This is really my first time ever doing this. I do like this kind of motif. I've done it in smaller bar before, but today we're going to do it in a little thicker bar for a coat rack project I'm working on. So starting with, we're going to just taper the end of this bar down, keeping it square as you go along, in line. So you're going to push those shoulders down and start to taper that down to a point, keeping it rotating so you can keep the center in line with the middle of the bar. Here I'm going to start necking down and isolating the material that's going to form my leaf. I'm sure there's probably a more efficient way to do this, but with a little bit of practice, and I need more of it, this has worked for me, so that's what I'm doing. I don't have any special spring pullers for this. I'm just going to carefully isolate the material for the leaf and create as equal as I can a shoulder necking down that material to get to the effect that I want. Switching over to the horn of the anvil, we're going to isolate that even more and start to neck down the rest of it to form what is the stem, so to speak, of the leaf here. Doing it this way, I'm pinching the material from both sides. I'm actually not hitting the metal square with my hammer. I have a slightly rounded face on this hammer, so I've actually got in essence, a top die and a bottom die using this, and it allows me to create the thin down, neck down section that I want for this finial. Now we're going to take it over to the corner of the anvil so I can go across it. I'm going to start rounding this a little bit here, knocking the corners down, making it a little bit more octagonal, hexagonal probably first, then octagonal, and make it as round as you want it to be. I didn't go full round here. I could have. This is just up to your eye, whatever you want to do. But you always start, just like always, take your square piece, take the corners off, then take those corners off, and continue moving around until you get the effect that you want it to be. So here I'm just going to be using the face of my hammer as a die. I'm working on the far side away from my body here, and working on thinning out the edges of this leaf, and focusing on keeping a central ridge of material through the middle of the leaf that is somewhat untouched based on the accuracy of my hammer blows, but leaving a ridge that runs down the middle while I thin this out. Pause to look at the shape and focus on the areas that need a little bit more roundness or a little bit more swelling to give you the effect that you're looking for. This is really a by eye kind of process. I do a lot of my leaves this way, and I quite like the way they turn out. Little wild brush here to get some of that scale off. It's something I should do more of in my forging process. I tend to leave myself with way too much scale. Then we're going to switch over to the crossbeam of the hammer, and we're going to start to add the texture into this leaf. Again, there's lots and lots of different ways to make leaves, and there's lots of better teachers out there, frankly, that are teaching you how to do leaves. This is the way I like to do it. I like the way it thins the edges down. It often creates a bit of a wavy look. I've done it with fullers and with smooth, but both my wife and I kind of like this to our eye, and I'm just going to keep working this to the thinness that I want, trying to match the angle on both sides of the leaf with the crossbeam as I go. I'm just going to take the leaf over to the vise now, clamp it in, and taking my chisel, my hot chisel, I'm going to cut some notches into it. This isn't really terribly organized or even. I tend to like organic stuff that is not symmetrical, so I'm just going to knock these in based on my eye, 3 or 4 or 5 per side depending on the size of the leaf, and then we're going to take it to the cupping stump after this. Just take the round die of a ball peen hammer and drive the vane side down. So the textured side is down on this, and I'm hammering the back side of the leaf to create a cup curved effect on that. I quite like the way that turned out. Then I'm going to take and flip it over and use the peen again to try to knock down the edges of the cuts to try to make them a little bit flatter, a little bit more natural looking. And there we go. And to my eyes, if you're going to buy something that's a forged piece, it shouldn't look like a piece of cold rolled steel. So I'm going to take the main section of the rack here and just give it some hammer blows all along its face to give it a little bit of texture, so it looks like it was actually in the forge under the hammer and not just off the shelf. You can do it smooth and clean, whatever your eye likes. To me, I like to see that there was a hammer involved. I forged some hooks to go along with this, and the next video is going to have me assembling this whole assembly and putting it all together.